We have some conference championship previews coming up with Locked On's Kim Becker. David and I are looking ahead to Super Bowl 57. But first, the Buccaneers coaching staff appears to be on the cusp of breaking up. We're going to dive into it right now. Let's go.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast, and thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or first watch every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. I am James Yarcho, joined as always by David Harrison. You can find everything that we are doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation.
Yeah, again, thanks for making us your first watch or your first listen every single day. Back after a couple days off, a couple days hiatus, James, some injuries, some illnesses, some fun things happening, just falling off. Everything that touches the Buccaneers right now is just not going well, or at least not smoothly. And that includes actually the hiring of Byron Leftwich to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, according to reports and news developments, should have happened like 2 days ago. But here we are. We sit here Thursday afternoon and still not official, maybe official by the time this gets published, but still not official. At first, there was some squabbles. It sounded like over a little bit of money. And then there was Vic Fangio being flown by the Jacksonville Jaguars from Denver to potentially come interview for the job. And now it appears that the latest development is the only thing holding up Byron Leftwich from becoming the next head coach of the Jaguars is the existence of Trent Baalke as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, at least that according to the latest from several sources, including Mike Jurecki, Arizona Cardinals digital content correspondent, who tweeted, quote, hearing the Jaguars are close to hiring Adrian Wilson as their GM and Byron Leftwich as head coach, end quote. Byron Leftwich and Adrian Wilson go back to their Arizona Cardinals days. So basically Byron wants his guy in Jacksonville with him, not to inherit a guy who quite honestly has helped put together a pretty horrendous run for the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. James, first and foremost, what do you think about the back and forth with Byron Leftwich and the Jags? And do you think Byron is approaching this thing the way that he should be, given how young he is, how inexperienced he is, and the uphill climb he has ahead of him as the leader of the Jaguars?
I think so. I mean, if this is legitimately what happened, that Byron Leftwich walks in and he says, look, I want to coach this team. I love this team. I was the quarterback of this team, but I'm not doing it with Trent Baalke. Who can blame him? If he walks in there with Baalke as his GM, he's already set up to fail. And I would be shocked if there were any head coaching candidates that the Jags talked to that were like, yeah, sure, I'll inherit this guy as my GM because things have gone so well. No, Byron Leftwich is going to want to surround himself with guys that he knows he can trust and guys that are going to buy into what he's doing. So if you take a look at Adrian Wilson, this is a guy that was running scouting for the Arizona Cardinals. He played in the league and he knows what he's looking for. It's almost kind of like the Jason Light path, minus the fact that Wilson played in the NFL, but he's worked his way up the scouting ranks. And now Byron, who has worked with him and knows him and trusts him, says, this is the guy that I want to be the GM. If we are going to turn this around, this is what it's going to take. So I don't fault Byron at all, because why are you going to go somewhere where you know you're already set up to fail if you can just stay in Tampa and potentially make one more run with Bruce and Todd and Tom Brady and the whole crew there? So it makes a lot of sense that, Byron wants to succeed in his first opportunity to be a head coach. He says, this is what it's going to take. The Jags either listen or they continue to be the Jags.
Yeah, honestly, it's incredibly smart by Byron Leftwich. We've talked about Byron as a potential head coaching candidate for some time now. Yeah. And my concern that's always come up has always been just a little bit of lack of experience. And that's really all it boils down to. And there's the old adage that the only way to get experience is to go do something. And every time's a first-time head coach at some point in time in their career. And all those things are very good. The question was just going to be how savvy is Byron Leftwich and how intelligent was going to be in the atmosphere he was walking into. And I think this right here shows a great amount of awareness and a great amount of intelligence by Byron entering into his first position. Let's just call it what it is. Jacksonville Jaguars do not have a great reputation when dealing with players, from before Urban Meyer, going back all the way to Tom Coughlin, all of those things. I mean, this is a problem that's been going on for years and years in Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey spoke about it. Leonard Fournette has spoken about it. These are things that need to get fixed. And not for nothing, but Trent Baalke is another suit inside the NFL, mechanism that is this great giant media machine. And like you mentioned, Adrian Wilson has that player background. Byron Leftwich has that player background. These guys speak the language. They know what the guys in the locker room, what the guys on the field with the pads on are going through. And I think these players trust that a little bit more than they do a guy who's a suitor, maybe has a little bit of experience here or there, but essentially rose up through the administrative channels. These guys played the game, bled on the field, led game-winning drives with a broken leg, right? These are things that these guys did. They're warriors essentially in the arena to pull from a little bit of Tom Brady motivation. I think it's brilliant. And the Jacksonville Jaguars should have already, hopefully they're just working on numbers at this point and looking to get the ink on the paper with Adrian Wilson, because if not, then they're making a huge mistake. And I think Byron already off to a very good start in Jacksonville if all of these things are true. Now, the next question is going to be, if Byron leaves, what is the impact on the offense? We already know Bruce Arians said that if Byron is gone, Bruce is going to go back to calling plays in 2022, something he gave up when he came back to coaching. Said he's figured out a way to spread out his other responsibilities. I think Harold Goodwin probably has a really good hand in that pot to make sure that Bruce doesn't overwork himself. But James, do you see, and of course, let's assume Tom Brady comes back, right? Because if Tom doesn't come back, the offense is going to look completely different no matter what happens. But let's assume Tom comes back. Let's assume Chris gets re-signed. Let's assume Rob decides to run it back with his buddy one more time. But Byron is gone. How big of a change, how big of an impact do you really think that has on what we know as the Buccaneers offense?
I don't think it's going to have much of a change, honestly, because Byron was learning basically Bruce's system, right? They were working together and Byron had plenty of say, but it all stemmed from what Bruce Arians has done his entire career. So there'll be slight differences here and there, but I don't think it's going to be anything glaring enough that you really have to be like, oh, wow, this is a different football team without Byron Leftwich. What the big shift and the big change you're going to see is the Jacksonville offense. So to me, if Bruce is calling plays, he's got Harold Goodwin there, as you said. It's going to be really minimal differences, minimal changes, and the Bucs are still going to be a team that can go out and drop 30 at any point. They're still going to be a team that's going to run the ball, but they're also going to air it out. They are probably not going to run as often as they should, and they're probably going to throw way too much in some circumstances. And that's BA, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. I think, the way you put it is perfect. I think Byron Leftwich has grown up and developed his identity within the identity of the offense as we know it. So the offense, by and large, should stay the same. What you're going to see a little bit different maybe is some of the execution. I think really we're going to find out just how much control Byron Leftwich had in what we see that's different, and as far as the play calling development of the scheme and everything else. And of course, other reports not confirmed, not necessarily anything you need to worry about just quite yet, but Larry Foote, linebacker coach, and Kevin Garver, wide receiver coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, rumored to at least be in conversations with Byron to go with him to Jacksonville. And then, of course, James, I think the biggest thing for the Buccaneers, right, moving forward after this is because of new NFL policies and rules. If Byron Leftwich gets hired to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a compensatory third-round pick this year, and they get a compensatory third-round pick next year. How big is that?
I mean, it's another lottery ticket, right? You never know when, if or when you're going to hit on these draft picks. So the more opportunity that you get to bring guys into your facility, the better chance you have at hitting on something. So it would be great for the Bucs to get those additional picks, and especially if they're going to be in a situation where they're continuing to mortgage their future and they're continuing to kick the can down the road, so to speak, to get more players in that can have an impact on this team that are under those rookie deals, especially when you're getting into those day 2, day 3 kind of picks and salaries. That could be huge. I don't want to say that it will be, because you just don't know if the pick is going to pan out or not. So it's a nice little it's a nice little compensation for losing one of your coordinators. So with that, and it bears mentioning, as we recorded this, nothing official, but the New Orleans Saints have also reached out to ask permission to interview Byron Leftwich for their head coaching vacancy now. I don't think anything's really going to come of that. It might be a little bit more of a push for the Jags to hurry up and get their stuff done, but it bears mentioning that Byron Leftwich, if a deal doesn't get done sooner than later, could be speaking with the division rival New Orleans Saints about their gig reuniting with Jameis Winston.
Trolls.
But either way, with a potential head coaching gig on the way, Byron Leftwich is definitely going to have some extra money in his pocket, but you can have more money in your pocket as well with a great app called GetUpside. Our listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas that they buy every time they fill up. You just download the free GetUpside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents off per gallon or more on your first fill up. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using GetUpside. Just download the app for free. Use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account, and you can cash out anytime to your bank account, your PayPal, or you can redeem it for e-gift cards for places like Amazon or other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app. Use promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's promo code Touchdown on the free GetUpside app. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. A new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. Sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Bucs podcast first listen or your first view every single day. Big announcement, the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show podcast is going on the road to LA for Super Week, along with Pat McAfee. Follow the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show today to get the most comprehensive coverage of the big game. It is free, it is available, and it is on all platforms, just like the Locked On Bucs podcast. David Harrison, James Yarcho, back with you now at DHarrison82, at JYarcho_Bucs, at Locked On Bucs, all on Twitter. And James, it is NFC, AFC championship weekend. And unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not participating in said weekend because of things that we don't want to talk about anymore. Although perhaps, and I don't want to put blame on us here, but perhaps the universe knew that you and I were about to have to be sidelined for a couple of days. So they're like, you know what? Let's just not make you miss active news, and let's just kick the can down the road. Maybe that's why the Buccaneers lost. It's our fault.
You know, I was laid up when I threw my back out. If the Bucs were still playing this weekend, I would have recorded it on my phone and from my bed and uploaded it to YouTube. It wouldn't have had the graphics and all the fun stuff like that, but there would have been something.
From James Yarcho's bed. Well, I couldn't speak, right. So I don't know sign language, so that wouldn't have happened. But there are 4 teams playing, James, this weekend, kicking it all off with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. Kansas City looking for their 3rd straight trip to the Super Bowl, favored to win at home by 7. Who do you have and why?
I will take the Chiefs. In fact, I will take the Chiefs minus the 7. And I understand the Cincinnati Bengals already beat the Chiefs once this year. I understand that I live in the middle of Bengals country and Bengals fans are insufferable right now. In fact, I had a Bengals fan tell me today that they're going to lose because the head official of this game has done 5 Bengals games and the Bengals have lost 4 of them because he hates the Bengals. So they're already starting in with the excuses. But look, it's tough to beat a team twice in one season. It's especially tough to beat the Chiefs twice. And after they lost to the Bengals earlier this year, I think that the Bengals are going to have a very, very difficult time trying to beat them in Arrowhead in an AFC championship. So and the Chiefs were my preseason AFC pick to go to the Super Bowl. So I'll stick with that too.
So you got to stick with it. I got that. And, look, the good news for Joe Burrow is that he's going to be able to light up a cigar after the end of this game. The bad news is it's going to be a vacation cigar, not a victory cigar. Either way, it's a cigar. I don't know if he's at one for each, but whatever it is, he'll be able to light one up. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game. I'm pretty confident in that fact. Cincinnati Bengals, what they've done is pretty impressive. Don't get me wrong, but they haven't exactly been dominating teams. They've been playing. They've been coming up against some guys that basically needed beating. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals fan base, though, you don't need to make excuses, man. Your team just 2 years ago had the number 1 overall pick. Just this last year had a top 5 pick. You have no reason to be making excuses. What the Bengals have done so far is amazing, and if they continue on that trajectory, they're going to win a championship. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, minimum. And James is just going to go crazy from having to deal with all the who days around him as he goes to work every morning. Hopefully, he'll be going to work in Tampa, and it won't matter anyway. Flipping over to the NFC side, San Francisco John Lynch's visiting the Los Angeles Rams. Rams favored. They didn't cheat. Rams favored by 3.5 because the NFL hates Tom Brady. Who wins this game and why?
I realize that people in the comment section are going to be like, but James, you just said it's really hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. But I'm taking the 49ers. And for whatever reason, the 49ers rammed like this Shanahan, Sean McVay thing that they got going on. Shanahan doesn't lose to McVay. Since he became the head coach, he's undefeated against the Rams. Like he doesn't lose to them. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And look, the 49ers are red hot right now. I guess the Rams are too from the 2 postseason games, but they ended the regular season very unlike the way the 49ers ended the regular season. So can they overcome Jimmy Garoppolo's deficiencies to make this happen? The key to this one is you get the ball in the hands of Kittle, you get the ball in the hands of Debo, and you let them do their work and unleash the pass rush on Matt Stafford for all the reasons that we talked about the Bucs needing to unleash the pass rush on Matthew Stafford. So I think we're in for a Super Bowl 54 rematch.
Interesting. I have the Rams winning. So as much as I love the 49ers, as much as I love what they bring, the reason I predicted they would beat the Green Bay Packers is because of the matchups, right? The 49ers defense had enough or has enough on defense to stifle the offense like the Green Bay Packers. And they had enough on offense if Jimmy G didn't completely torpedo their efforts to put up enough points against Packers defense. But the Rams have a little bit of both. They've got some offense, they've got some defense, and they got firepower on both sides. I know they started looking a little sluggish towards the end of that win over the Buccaneers and all that stuff, but I think that, if you can't get up for the NFC Championship game, and if you can't find 60 minutes of energy for the NFC Championship game, then to be quite honest with you, you don't deserve to be playing in the Super Bowl anyway. I don't care what the circumstances are. I feel like Sean McVay gets his guys up for this game. Matt Stafford has been waiting a long time for this type of an opportunity. Aaron Donald wants to get back to get another crack at winning a Super Bowl. Von Miller is coming into his own. I think this is the time. It reminds me of the Buccaneers beating the Saints last year. This is when Big Brother goes down, even if it only happens once.
I can absolutely, I see this as a complete coin flip. I really, truly do. And the fact that the conference championship is a divisional matchup means that it could end up being absolutely wild. So I'm not going to be surprised at all if we come on here next week talking about how you were right and the Rams won. I think the Niners will find a way to get it done. And, it should be an exciting game regardless. It should be really a lot of fun to watch.
So let's do a way too early Super Bowl prediction. If it's Niners and Chiefs, who wins?
Chiefs.
If it's Rams and Chiefs, who wins?
Rams.
If it's anybody and Bengals, we all lose. So Super Bowl 57 Super Bowl odds coming out way too early. Speaking of way too early, not from BetOnline.ag because they don't have those odds yet, but we love them anyway. But there are some other places that are putting some of these odds out, James. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are third in most likely to win Super Bowl 57 with plus 1,000 odds. That means that if you put down 100, you get 1,000 back. So you would get $1,100 after the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl in Las Vegas next year. That's a 9.1% chance to win. The Houston Texans have a plus 10,000 odds chance of winning. So you put 100 down, you get 10,000 back if they win. Probably not going to happen, but it could.
Do you know what the Bengals odds were preseason to win the Super Bowl this year?
Not good. Probably plus 5,000, I would say.
Plus 15,000.
15,000. That was on BetOnline.
That was not on BetOnline. It was on it might have been on MGM.
Yeah.
I saw a post about it and I was like, oh my gosh. If any Bengals fans were like, yep, here's my $50. Why not? Ooh, they could become a very, very rich individual.
Here's what's a little bit crazy about this kind of stuff, right? So this is where the advantage of foresight comes into play. Like, what if the Houston Texans pull off a trade to send Deshaun Watson to Green Bay, bring in Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb, along with whatever else they can get, and they sign Devontae Adams? They use all their draft capital that they do have on defense. I mean, the AFC is not all that stacked.
They immediately win that division.
They immediately become contenders in the AFC.
And, man.
And once you make it to the tournament, man, anything can happen. So if you like, really, to me, it's like, would you be willing to bet $100 on the chance on $10,000 odds that the Houston Texans get Aaron Rodgers? To me, that's really the bet here, which I don't think is going to happen. I think he's going to Denver. For what it's worth, the Denver Broncos currently plus 2,500. So, I mean, $100 on the Broncos and you might get yourself $2,500. So interesting, way too early odds on next year's Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I mean, just like you said, get in on the Broncos now with those odds, because people are continuing. We heard it right before the draft last year that Aaron Rodgers would be heading to Denver. Now they could get Rodgers and Devontae Adams to head out west. You could really cash in, and then you use some of that cash on the best protein bar on the market. You know I'm talking about those Built bars. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky, waxy, taste like a chemical spill, Built bars are tasty and healthy. And most of the Built bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You compare that to your normal everyday average candy bar. It's about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of carbs. They're covered in 100% chocolate. So it's almost like you're eating a candy bar. It just happens to be good for you while being delicious. So get rid of your candy stash, replace it with a Built Bar stash, and you can get cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, salted caramel, mint brownie, and Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors like churro puffs and caramel almond delight. Oh, so good. Check out Built.com often to see everything that is new. While you're there at Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Wrapping things up here on a Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarcho, David Harrison. But now we're going to kick it over to Kim Becker and Locked On Now to take a look at these conference championships.
Yep, Championship Sunday is just days away, and we've got to punch 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. Who will serve as the reigning AFC and NFC champions for the year to come? We'll find out what each team still standing needs to do to earn a conference title on Locked On Now NFL. Local experts on the biggest stories throughout the NFL. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Our Locked On NFL hosts are here to look ahead to the NFC and AFC championship games. Let's start where these teams are trying to get to Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. They will host the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, but first, the Rams have to host the 49ers for the NFC crown.
The biggest game.
San Francisco 49ers fans don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo will be their starting quarterback next season, but they do know that he'll be under center to try to win his second NFC championship game in 3 years against the Rams on Sunday. With a chance to remain undefeated against the NFC in the postseason, our Locked On 49ers host says the key to a San Francisco victory is Jimmy G not making the big mistakes that could cost the Niners the whole game.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, former NFL and AFL defensive back Eric Crocker, and I am one half of the Locked On 49ers crew, here to give you your 49ers main key to victory as they travel to Levi South and take on the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game. All right. I think this game, it begins and ends with the play of Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if I had to give just one main key victory here, it's Jimmy G. Don't turn the ball over. And if you do, just limit it. So right now, 49ers, the way I see it, Jimmy G, one turnover. That's all we're giving you. Just one. Anything more than that, it'd be trouble for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, so that's going to do it, man. I hope you guys appreciate that. Make sure you guys listen to our show as well, Locked On 49ers, the best show on the Locked On Network podcast. Let's go, 49ers. Win this game this Sunday.
Matthew Stafford picked up his first playoff win just a couple of weeks ago, and now he's a win away from playing the biggest football game on the planet in the Rams' home stadium. Our Locked On Rams host tells you how LA gets the veteran QB to the Super Bowl he's chased for 12 whole seasons.
Hey, it's Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams. So here is the one key to victory this weekend for the Rams in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. Remember when you used to play with matches as a kid and maybe you'd get away with it once in a while, and a couple of weeks, months, years later, you realize how bad of an idea that was, that you could have burned the whole house down? That was the Rams in Tampa against the Bucs. They were playing with matches. They turned it over way too many times. 4 turnovers in that game. Somehow they escaped. Somehow they beat Tom Brady despite turning it over 4 different times. If they're going to beat the Niners, they simply cannot do that. They might be able to get away with 1. 2 is probably the end of the wrap. And anything more than that, it is absolutely not going to happen for you there. You can check out more about the Los Angeles Rams on my podcast, Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is free and available on all platforms. Your team every day.
The Kansas City Chiefs played the Cincinnati Bengals just a few weeks ago at the end of the regular season, and Cincy won. So how do the Chiefs make sure that that doesn't happen again with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line? Our Locked On Chiefs says a combination of learning from the mistakes of that game and keeping the momentum going from last week will add up to a big win. But he has more on the details.
The AFC Championship game comes down to 2 things for the Kansas City Chiefs. Can Patrick the Reaper Mahomes continue his run as we saw against the Bills? And can the Chiefs defense and its staff learn its lesson from the last time they played the Cincinnati Bengals? I'm Ray Tracy from Locked On Chiefs, and that's what it comes down to. You saw an extraordinary effort by the offense, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, to not only get to overtime, but then win it. They don't need to do that. They have to avoid it, in fact, in order to get this win against a team that is nearly as explosive. On the other side, you have to be careful if you're Steve Spagnuolo or anyone out there on the field on the defensive side of the ball to not overreact to what you saw the last time when Jamar Chase destroyed that secondary on a circus catch after circus catch. Tyrann Mathieu should be back and playing in this ballgame. That helps. You have to adjust and you have to play over the top and you have to try to take Chase and limit him, not take him away, because then you're devoting too many other resources to that and someone else is going to hurt you. I think they're going to play more zone. I think they have to back off and let Joe Mixon hurt them if he can. They'll live with that, and that will get them the win. For more on this game and your Chiefs, check out Locked On Chiefs. We're free on every platform. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joe Burrow took a beating last week as he fought his way into the AFC Championship game. And while Cincinnati does already have a win against Kansas City under its belt this season, our Locked On Bengals host says that the team can't get a second one if it doesn't keep its quarterback on his feet.
Will the Bengals take down the Chiefs on Sunday in Kansas City and advance to the Super Bowl? Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien of the Locked On Bengals podcast, and that is the question going into this epic AFC Championship game between 2 teams that played each other this month. They played each other on January 2nd at Paul Brown Stadium. The Bengals came out victorious 34-31, overcoming 3 different 14-point deficits. I expect Sunday to be a different story. The Bengals can't fall behind against this Chiefs team by 2 scores and expect a rally on the road. But the number one key, protect Joe Burrow. Burrow was sacked 9 times last week against the Titans. He was hit 13 times. And yeah, the offense had 19 points. Well, 19 points isn't going to cut it against Patrick Mahomes. The magic number, 40. If they can somehow get to 40, you feel good about their chances. How do they do that? They keep Joe Burrow upright. If they do that, he can distribute the ball to all of his weapons, including Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. And the Bengals just might sneak in to the Super Bowl. For more, make sure you check out the free and the only daily Bengals podcast, Locked On Bengals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
That's a wrap for us here. Thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every day. For more on the National Football League and your team, make your second listen Locked On NFL and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kim Becker. This has been Locked On Now, Locked On your team every day.
All right. Big thank you to Kim Becker and all of the conference championship hosts there for joining this episode. And with that, David, we are out of here. Thank you all for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or first watch every day, free and available on all platforms. Now, for your second listen, you need to check out the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Check out everything David and I are doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to one another. We thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.